Let's go, girls. Welcome to Talk Wealthy to Me. I'm Michelle Taylor, founder of Women in Wealth. From breaking money myths to building wealth and achieving financial freedom, we're here to empower you to create your own path. Talk Wealthy. Now, join the conversation and let's change the way women think and feel about money. Okay, ready? Welcome back to Talk Wealthy to Me, the podcast where we change the way women think and feel about money, success, and wealth on their own terms. I'm your host, Michelle Taylor. Today's guest I'm so excited about because she embodies confidence, purpose, and abundance in everything that she does. Joining me is Allison Walsh, a powerhouse leader, personal brand and business consultant, best-selling author, international speaker, and positive psychology coach. Allison's mission is to help ambitious women build confidence, lean into their passions, and achieve success that aligns with their values. By the age of 30, Allison was already a vice president of the company on track for unicorn status, an incredible feat. She went on to scale Charlie's Health national sales team 5x in just 18 months, proving her expertise in leadership and business growth. Allison is also the founder of She Believed She Could brand, a movement empowering women through a top 1% global podcast, a best-selling book, and personal development programs that truly change lives. She's also a dedicated advocate for mental health, having raised over $2 million for eating disorder prevention. With 3 kids, a thriving business, and a deep commitment to impact and purpose, Allison knows a thing or two about redefining success and building wealth in a way that serves her life and legacy well. In today's conversation, we'll dive into Allison's journey, what building wealth means to her, how she redefines success at every stage of her life, and how women everywhere can confidently pursue their dreams while creating freedom and opportunity. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's talk wealthy with the incredible Allison Walsh. Hi, everybody. I am so excited to welcome Allison Walsh to the conversation today. Allison, thank you so much for being here.
Well, I am thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I am so impressed by your story. A lot of what we talk about is being able to pivot, redefine success, and it seems like you've done quite a bit of that in your short life. Tell me a little bit about what it looked like for you to go from an executive in corporate America to a business owner. How did you decide to take that risk?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, I had kind of a dabbling in it for a long time, which it made it a little bit easier, but I've always been very entrepreneurial in spirit. So even when I was working in corporate America, I was working for startups. And so I was always testing and trying things on my own. I started a coaching company, my very first one back in 2007, right? So I was in my early 20s, again, just helping people do something that I had recently done and they wanted to get the fast track to it, right? So I learned early on that I could leverage my skills and my knowledge, for income. And I loved that. And it became something that I could lean on at different times of my life and career, maybe where I wanted to dial up my earning potential, dial down. But then when it came time for me to leave something that was so prestigious, I was so honored to be in the roles that I served in. I had a lot of confidence in myself because I had proof of concept, right? Where I hadn't done it full time on my own by myself, being that sole source of income. But I had done enough to know that I was good at it and it was scalable. And so it made it a lot easier for me to cannonball into the pool of entrepreneurship. And I love it. I'm very grateful for it. And I'm excited about just the evolution of it to come.
And never have looked back, it sounds like.
No, I'm thrilled to be doing it.
One of the things that we touch on quite a bit is the confidence gap that happens. And I know a lot of you listening have a great idea or would love to start your own business, but it's the fear of just getting started. Even if there is a proof of concept, it's scary. So what do you think it was? Was it just that innate belief that you could not fail? Did you have a big support system? What do you think allowed you to make that jump?
Yeah, well, I think for me, it was scary, right? I mean, at the position that I was in, especially when I stepped away from that fully, great salary, great benefits, great equity, great everything, right? Great team, all of it. It was a layering of factors that really kind of led me to that point where, I'm looking at all of these beautiful companies that I've helped to start and scale. I mean, the one prior to it was Dirt and a Dream, right? I'd been there for 9.5 years, grew it to 1,000 team members, incredible company, mission driven, all the things. But I'm looking around going, okay, I've now done this successfully for multiple operators and owners. Like, it's time to bet on myself. And it was terrifying. And I think that was the place where I had to say, okay, I need a plan, right? Like for me, I find comfort and confidence in strategic planning.
Absolutely.
And knowing that I've thought about things from 27 different angles, like that puts my anxiety to rest.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, my brand is She Believes She Could. So I had to kind of like bet on myself, right? And so I think that, I reached this point where I'm looking at my kids and I'm saying, my daughter's 12. She's had a horrible year just as far as like her own circumstances and life and things she's dealt with. And I'm like, I need to be more present for her. I have 2 other young children. I know I can do this. I've done this for others. It's time for me to do it for myself. And so it was that leap of faith and a lot of planning and a lot of reflecting and saying, okay, like I'm going to give myself a solid period of time to run. I know I can do this. This is what I've got saved to be able to do this. And this is what I need to incrementally earn as this becomes my full-time focus. And so, was every month, beautiful? No, that's entrepreneurship. But where there's some like outsized months of like, this is great, clone that, and then you learn, right? So you just are constantly looking at what's working, what's not, what do I want to do more of, what's lighting me up, what's absolutely horrible, what can I outsource so that I can stay in my zone of genius. And I'll never forget, like right after I left, I had gotten off a call with a client and I'm like, cool. So I'm going to be doing all the follow-up on this until I build that team around me because I was so used to having just an incredible group of people that I could turn to, my chief of staff, my, direct reports, everybody that would execute. That to me was like the biggest gap where I was so used to having everybody that would just jump in. So then I built a team and now everybody jumps in and we're good. So,
it's a big adjustment.
It is.
It's hard to do it all on your own.
It is. And I didn't want to.
No.
Yeah.
And that's the importance of building a community and building relationships that are going to be important. I have to ask you this. Did you have a plan B? Did you go into it with the expectation of saying, okay, I'm giving myself this amount of time, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to go pivot and go back to the world that I left?
I mean, I think this time I had to burn the boats.
I love that.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. Similar story where when I went into this world of consulting, I had left a very comfortable job, 6 figures in an industry that I loved, but I knew that being a mom, it was never going to work out. So I remember everyone in my family saying, this is not wise.
Yeah.
And they all asked me, what's your plan B? And I said, I cannot go in with a plan B. And it's funny, we have sweatshirts now at our consulting firm that say, burn the ships, because you have to. You have to bet on yourself and jump in with both feet.
Yeah. Well, and I think, if you need the plan B for the comfort of knowing that you can always go back to what you wanted or what you were doing before, fine. But you're not going to be as happy, right? Like you're leaving for a reason. And I think that I know that I can turn around and go back and do the things that I once did. I trust myself. I've got a great track record. I've done things that nobody else in the industry that I came from had ever done before. So I trust myself. Like I could do it again. But it's time for me to bet on me. And that is where, for once, I just didn't even contemplate it. It was like, nope. And I held my ground. I held my boundaries too, because as soon as it was public knowledge that I was leaving where I was, the phone started ringing quickly. And I had to really be clear on what I was going to say yes to and what I was going to say no to, because for so many years I said yes to everybody else and no to myself. And I recognized that it was really time to go all in. And if I didn't do it, the fear of regret for me was so much louder than the fear of failure. And that's what really just allowed me to say, no, it's my time. It is my time. And for anybody listening, it's your time too. Like go if you're feeling it.
You're either succeeding or you're learning.
Yes, exactly.
And
exactly.
I'm so glad that it worked out. And here we are today. So when you were young, do you remember what entrepreneurship, or let me rephrase that. Do you remember what success looked like? Was that climbing the corporate ladder? Was it being an entrepreneur? Was it a certain milestone in life? What did the 12-year-old Allison think success would look like?
Well, I didn't have entrepreneurs in my family. So I watched my parents work really hard to get to the positions that they were in. My dad had an incredible career in the timeshare industry and again, like was a music major in college, like was not, like started from the ground zero, right? And so for me, success as I was younger was the executive that was traveling all over the world, that was making a great income, that had worked really hard to get there. That was my definition of it. When I was 18, I kind of tossed my hat into somewhat of an entrepreneurial venture, but was more on the nonprofit side because that's when I started my first foundation. And because I was a motivated advocate and I wanted to make a difference in this world. And that was my first little like toe in the water moment where I'm like, wow, like you can create something if you want to solve a problem for a group of people or your clients or whatever it is. And that really kind of opened my eyes to it, even though it was on the nonprofit side. Fast forward several more years and I had gotten into the treatment industry. And that's where I was connected with just unbelievable entrepreneurs. And I watched and learned from them and looked at their track records. I was very, very, very fortunate at a startup I was involved in for almost 10 years. They had been physician entrepreneurs. I mean, built an unbelievable company prior to starting the one that we were involved in together. But wow, it was like, you have no limits when you start a business for yourself. Like there is no cap on your potential. And that was really exciting for me. So, I didn't have it necessarily as something right in front of me when I was a child, but I knew what hard work and dedication looked like and grit and resilience and fighting your way through things that are hard. And so that, even though I didn't have the entrepreneurs in my life then, those lessons from my parents and, others around me that inspired me definitely showed me the way.
That's wonderful. And it sounds like legacy really has played a big part in how you have walked the path that you're on. Yeah. And, so often people aren't even thinking about wealth and what it can create in that manner. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes, I know for myself personally, I had leukemia as a teenager. And when I started to think through what wealth and what success would look like for me, I remember thinking, and I still struggle with this to today, to be honest, is how much is too much to shoot for without there being some level of you're asking for too much. Mm-hmm. And I was challenged by some really wonderful mentors in my life to start thinking about building wealth as a way to do or give back to others. Mm-hmm. And it did let me off the hook quite a bit, which I'm so thankful for. I would love to hear a little bit about how that played a part in your journey. Yeah. Leaving a legacy. Was that something that now you're lucky enough to be able to do, or is that something that you prioritized?
Yeah, no, leaving a legacy is huge for me. I wish it's almost like you were a fly on the wall in my house yesterday because I said to my husband, wouldn't it be amazing? This is literally a conversation we had yesterday. Wouldn't it be amazing that by the end of 2025, we can give X dollars back to our church? Like this church that we're now involved in is changed our lives. Oh, wow. Our daughter has found so much peace and solace in being there. She's the one that brought us there. I was like, how cool would it be if by the end of next year, we're able to do this? I would give every penny away if I could, right? To me, what you can do with the dollars that you earn and the impact that you can have on other people is unreal. And I think that's why I loved the nonprofit world. That's why I still have a foundation. I love raising money and giving it back because
good.
Oh my gosh, the ripple effect that you can have, not only by giving your time and your energy, but your financial resources to causes that you care about is so significant. And I think it's really important that we think about that we are people on this earth that can make a massive difference in the lives of others. And when you can connect your passion for something that you care about to something that you care about and your dollars, it is so fulfilling. It is the best feeling to be able to say, I want to give this to you to go do great work, right? That is just so meaningful. So yeah, I'm all about the legacy. I dream of buildings with our names on it kind of stuff because it matters, right? And I think that when you're blessed with gifts and talents to do good in this world, and then you're also able to share that, and the generosity with others, like that is everything. And that lights my fire. Like I think about what's motivating me for the next year. And I think about, of course, like I'm goal oriented. So I'm like next, milestone. But I'm also like, can we reach a giving milestone that we've never reached before? And how cool will that be to be able to do that?
I love that so much. I'm going to try and implement it at home myself because it gives you the freedom to dream big without feeling like you're asking for too much.
Yeah.
And I know, a lot of the listeners, there's going to be a broad spectrum of what their financial capabilities are. So I would challenge all of you guys to not necessarily think about starting a nonprofit, or that doesn't have to be your end result. But I think giving back in the way of bettering yourself and learning about what money can do for you and passing those lessons on to the young people in your life so that they can do the same. I think just thinking around legacy and impact is the greatest gift that we can give ourselves.
Yeah, I
because
agree.
It goes on.
I agree. And just to add to that too, the lessons that we're teaching our children. So one of the things that we did over the Thanksgiving break was, time to clean out the closets, right? We knew Christmas was coming.
Gotta get ready. Clean out for Santa.
Exactly. And so I said to my children, like, clean it out. We'll take it to resale or donate things, that can't be resold. And then you can choose what you want to do with those dollars. Sure enough, my oldest daughter, every penny to the church, along with a letter talking about how much that has impacted her. We're giving to other organizations that we care about, like the National Alliance for Eating Disorders and all of the wonderful mental health community organizations, because those causes we care about deeply and they make a big difference. And so, teaching your kids and even just making it part of your process, it just is, when it becomes so second nature, it's incredible to see what you can do with your resources.
That's amazing. We talk about that a lot in leaving everything and everyone better than you find them. It's kind of something that I've always grown up saying to myself and then to my kids, and they'll ask me how to do that. And it can be simple, but it can also be big. I love that. So let's shift a little bit. I want to talk about, again, giving yourself the permission to be a little bit what can sometimes feel selfish, and that's focusing on personal branding. Because again, focusing on what the end result can be when you're building something meaningful and impactful is the bigger piece to discuss, as opposed to, what you have to accumulate to be able to do so. So when you're talking to women about personal branding and building something, tell me when the right time is for our listeners to start exploring those things.
Yesterday. But today's a great day.
Yes.
And I think when you look at it and you say, this is not ego driven, I want to start there, because sometimes people are like, well, who am I to shine a spotlight? Or that's so, self-centered. That is not this. And that is not the way that I build people's personal brands with them and for them. I focus on, who are you trying to serve? Who, if you could serve 1 million people, what would that person look like? What problems would you be solving? What do you have as a part of your story that can make a massive difference in the life of other people? And when we can switch that mindset to it's all about me, to it's all about who I'm going to serve, there's this noticeable energy shift that happens with my clients, with our community, where you lose yourself in the service of others, right? And it becomes all about your impact versus you. And I will tell you, it is a disservice if you're not sharing your personal brand with the world. At the end of the day, it's your reputation. And as human beings, especially in a world that is now so driven by AI,
it's incredible.
It's wild. Authenticity, genuine connection is what people are searching for. And if you just think about just the way we function as humans, we are constantly looking for, how does this person relate to me? How does this person connect to me? Do they get me? Do they understand me? When you have a personal brand that's shining brightly, you are allowing people to find connection, even if they don't know you personally. And that's powerful, because that is what we need as humans to continue to exist and to feel fulfillment and joy and to feel seen, valued, heard. And that's such an incredible part of the process of building your brand.
Well, and again, it goes back to changing your mindset, just like with leaving a legacy. And I think that for a lot of us, we think, what do I have to contribute to a conversation? What do I have to say? But so much right now in this world feels off limits that we can't talk about things. And there are so many people that have commonalities. And I think by sharing your brand, you may be encouraging somebody else to do the same, and that can change their life.
Exactly.
And if people don't like what you're offering or what you have to say, they can keep moving.
Exactly.
But
there's 9 billion people in this
that's
world.
right.
So you're not going
That's
to be
right.
everybody's cup of tea. So
No, but finding the ones that are impacted, it changes everything.
yes, it does.
So let's talk a little bit about money.
Let's do it.
How has money and your relationship with money impacted where you've ended up today? Do you feel that you operated in a scarcity mindset? And do you feel like that held you back? And what are some things that you would tell listeners that are financial graces, if you will, to give yourself, to bet on yourself and be able to?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely operated from a place of scarcity for so long. And I think, you know, even back to my origin story, right, of like my parents worked really hard to build the life that we had. Like I recognized the sacrifice and I was always worried it would go away, you know, things like that. That was very real. And then I got married in 2009, and 3 months after we got married, my husband lost his job. I had quit my job to go to law school, and within a year we had like nothing. And that was a moment for me that it took us years to kind of crawl out of that hole.
Yeah.
But it was one of those times where I just naturally defaulted back to, we don't have enough. We don't have enough. We don't have enough. What the heck just happened? Like, we just got married and we have nothing now. And so I operated from a place of fear for a long time around that everything would go away again. And different periods of time throughout the course of our lives together, we've had to be very intentional about being on the same page, because my natural default is scarcity when it comes to finances, because I know what it feels like to lose and to not have it. And so I've had to do a lot of work. So fast forward, it was like 2016 through 2019. I did a lot of work around like money mindset and read a lot of books and worked with a lot of different coaches and just, you know, made sure that that was part of the narrative, because I needed it to be front and center. I knew that it was blocking my ability to be abundant and to really step into that next level for myself, because I was always feeling the lack and operating from a place of fear. And so I had to do a lot there. I think when you think about what can you do financially, you have to have financial transparency in everything that you're doing. I think when you feel like there's not is where it gets very scary. So I do manage the household finances, like and a lot of women do, because, you know, having control of it is something that gives me a little peace of mind.
Absolutely.
So, but also educating yourself. Like, I think that was the other thing, is that I dodged every finance class in college that I could, right? So like that wasn't something that I took priority doing. And I wish if I could turn back time and go to my 18-year-old self, say, take financial accounting, take some of those classes in school, something to build that muscle to better understand things. So as a result, I've done a lot of intentional work around reading books about finance, understanding, implications, working with great people. Like that was a major move that we made, was like getting with a great tax strategist, because you get to certain thresholds in your financials on the financial side of things, and it can really bite you if you are not with the right people that are giving you the right guidance. And that happened too many times for me to be comfortable with over the course of the last decade. And so taking ownership and operating from the mindset of like, we're the CEOs of our household, right? And we need to take ownership of the finances in a way that's very intentional, that's very thoughtful, that still allows that flexibility to be spontaneous and spend, but like that we know we're planning appropriately for our futures. And just like I had to plan for my exit from a company, like I need to plan my finances well in advance. And there's enough that we can forecast, to be reasonably certain we have enough and can do more. And so, and you have to be prepared for the unexpected. I mentioned my daughter earlier in this episode. She had a really hard year, and, health bills and all of the stuff that comes along with that those are very real and can flip you upside
non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable, 100%. And I mean, her, it was a lot. But because, we were on the same page, we knew what was coming in and out, we could adjust accordingly. And this, that gives you that peace of mind to know that you can handle things.
Isn't it funny, growing up, you don't realize what your children are looking at you doing.
Yeah.
and what they will end up modeling.
Mhm.
I grew up same situation where my mom, everything was from a scarcity mindset. And women in general, we sit on too much cash. We miss opportunities because of that. And I always try and get my clients to think through, like, talk to the 10-year-old version of yourself and give her the permission to spend responsibly.
Yeah.
Sorry. One of the things that we do in my household, and we are also have the same dynamic where I'm rowing the financial canoe, is making sure that everyone's on the same page. So we do what's called State of the Unions on a quarterly basis. And it's really just making sure we're looking at everything, we're planning for the next quarter, what expenses are coming up, whether they're related to growing the business or on a personal side, if the kids have something or a big vacation. My husband could care less. And it's so funny because I always challenge women that say, I don't want to know about the financials. I tell them, you just have to understand it. And so you're never caught off guard. Just know the big plan. You don't need to be in the weeds with it every day. And I have to tell my husband that. And he's like, babe, you've got it. It's fine. But sitting down and understanding and mapping out what that will look like gives you so much power, where I find that people, especially women, that don't understand what their money is doing for them, they're almost scared to talk about it, scared to look. And I've been there. I made terrible financial decisions at one point in my life. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and that nagging feeling of, how am I going to cross this hurdle? And just understanding and peeking behind the curtain is really the first step. Having a team in place that empowers you to make decisions, the right team in place is critical. You and your husband, or you and your partner operating as a CEO of the household, but then having the people that you can bounce ideas off of and bounce questions is a game changer.
Yeah, it is. It unlocks a lot. And you know, those freak out moments in the middle of the night. Like, and I've been very honest with my husband too. Like, financial stress is my biggest trigger. Like, I know that about myself, you know, and I'm very mindful of it. So let's avoid it, right? Like, let's just be on the same page and make sure that everything is copacetic. And yeah, I have the calendar invites on his calendar too for, you know, we don't call them State of the Unions, but they're monthly financial recaps.
Just to understand, what are we working towards?
Yeah. So it's
don't
very
yell
helpful.
at each other about the little things that you're spending on, because you've got the plan.
Exactly.
What does this conversation look like 5 years from now? What are you working towards right now? I'm assuming, and I don't mean to be presumptuous, but just in what I know about you, I don't think that you're going to stay where you're at. I think you're shooting towards bigger things. What does that look like 5 years from now?
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited about 5 years. I'm just excited about the next 12 months, honestly. Like, there's so many good things that are in motion right now. And, you know, I think why I loved Startup Land so much was that I was in positions where I could do two things. Number one, I could optimize people and their potential. And number two, I had the ability to have scalable impact. And I really wanted to get my business to a place where I could say that I was doing those two things on a daily basis. And so since I've left corporate America, I've been very focused on what are the services that we're offering? What are the programs that we can, create that add tremendous value and can scale? And so we've got some product launches and services that are coming out that I'm just really, really excited about. And again, to your point earlier, I've learned a lot, right? Well, look at it that way, right? I've learned a lot about what my community wants, what they need, what I'm really good at, what my unique differentiators are, and had enough proof of concept from the hundreds of women that I've worked with one-on-one to be able to say, this works, here's the proof. Now let's go. And so I'm really excited because now the business model is shifting to a certain degree. So again, the ability to scale my team, the ability to do more things. We're going to be doing a lot more in-person events. There's just a lot of really cool stuff coming that I am lit up on the inside. I do want to have a sellable business, right? In
Absolutely.
5 years. And so, as I have met with my tax strategist, as we've been planning all this, like that, the end goal in mind is that I want it to be a tremendous value, and to have a buyer that's excited, and to be able to then go and do other things, right? So I'm excited about it. I think there's a lot of potential, and I hope that, from my lips to God's ears, all of these things come to fruition, but certainly I've put in the work to make it happen.
How in the world do you balance motherhood, marriage, and all of these initiatives that you're so passionate about? I know there's no secret sauce, but what do you think would be helpful?
I am extremely disciplined. So when I say I'm going to do something, I am very intentional about carving out the time and not canceling on myself. So I have found a rhythm to my day that works really well for me, and I can't compromise on that. And I have to look at, what are the priorities? What are the things that really matter? And how can I structure my life in such a way that I certainly don't take myself out of the game, right? I don't make destructive decisions. I'm not spending time doing things I don't need to be doing. I'm outsourcing what I need to, but that I'm also like keeping everything in alignment. One of the biggest priorities for me when I left corporate America was being able to pick up my kids at school and take them to dance in the afternoons and be present. And so that has shifted my schedule a lot more because I'm here, and that's great. And that's exactly what I wanted. But that means that I have to adjust kind of the hours that I'm available to do things and be incredibly protective of my time. And if it doesn't fit in the confines of what is the priority for the day, then I have to respectfully say no. And I have to be okay with that. I'm a natural people pleaser, which I know many women are, but it is important for you to protect your time and to do the things that are in alignment with where you're headed, and to keep that very much your focus, because the more you cancel on yourself, or the more you say no to good opportunities that are in that path for you, the longer it's going to take you to get there. And that will, cause you to feel defeated. That'll lower your confidence, all of those things. So it's like, say yes to the things that matter, no to the things that don't, and make sure that you set yourself up for a schedule that works for you. I know I am super efficient, creative, and productive in the morning. So I set up my days where that is just, that time is gold. Sacred time that I can get a lot accomplished versus trying to do something late at night. So just knowing myself enough to be able to say, this is when this is going to happen. This is when I can be available. And here we are. I mean, even today, right? Like I had clients this morning. I had to go to a performance at my kid's school. Then I had 3 Zoom calls, and now we're talking, right? But it all had to fit in to be able to make sure that I'm home to grab my girls to take them to dance in an hour.
And be present and be in the places that you want to be.
Exactly. A
couple of things that come to mind when you were saying that exercise about put the big rocks in first.
Yeah.
And I think that for anybody listening, that is such a gift to give yourself, is in the beginning of the year or anytime really, but really set the cadence of, these are the things that I will not move. And with the extra time that comes up and the found time, that's when you sprinkle in the other things. But it just ensures that you always show up for the things that matter to you. And it even goes down, I tell my kids, we have to make the bed every single day. Yeah. It's not because it matters, but it matters because it's creating the discipline to do the things that are important every single day, and don't give up on yourself. Yeah. I once heard somebody say that every time if you hit a snooze, it's the first time that you're letting yourself down or lying to yourself. And that to me was groundbreaking. I'm not a snooze button pusher, but my husband is. And I don't get it. Just be intentional with your time and what you want to do.
Yeah. My morning routine is everything. What
does that look like? What do you do?
I get up really early.
How early?
I'm a 4:30 riser.
Okay.
And I am also a habit stacker. So, I love the concept of habit stacking when you're trying to make incremental changes in your life. And so I had stacked some habits over the course of the years, and I keep them as is now. So wake up at 4:30. I have lemon water every morning. I've got little drops and all this concoction that I put in it. But, that to me is honoring myself and saying I need to do certain things for me. I then hit the floor. I do a light exercise, not long, not intensive, but again, I'm honoring a commitment to myself to move my body. It also gets my blood flowing, and I don't let myself have coffee until I've done that. So it's kind of
motivating.
Yes,
very
but
motivating.
I don't skip that because of it is a routine and it is part of what I do. And then I do something that allows me to just reconnect with what matters most, whether it's journaling, prayer, meditation. It is defined beforehand though. Like I think about it the night before, I plan for it the night before, because then that ensures I'm going to actually do it. And then I have also defined what are some of the things that I want to work on in the morning that light me up and fill me joy, that allow that creativity to come through. And those are defined also before, so that I can just jump into it and I get so much done. That's when I wrote my book, was in the early hours of the morning, because I love to write. And that was something that I could do consistently over the course of several months. And, so it's like finding those rhythms, those projects that you really love, that you enjoy doing, and giving yourself that time and space, because ultimately at 6:00, my husband's going to come in, we're going to talk for a few minutes. Then the kids get
Everybody
up at 6:15.
needs something from you.
And then it stops, right? And but that's our routine. And then I can focus on being there for them and getting them ready for school and driving my kids, and dropping them off and doing all those things. And then I roll into my work day, so it's been a nice little rhythm for me, and it works for me. I know it's not for everybody. Some people are night owls. That's cool. I don't care what your time is.
Adjust. Yep.
Find what works for you and honor those projects that are in your heart, because the greatest growth that I've experienced has come from the time that I've given myself. That's what made me a valuable employee, was because I was working on things during my time that allowed me to grow and accelerate, right? The projects that have given me the most joy were happening during those times of the day, so give yourself the time and space to explore and to have that time, whatever that looks like for you, because it's a part of who you are and it needs to be honored.
And just quiet with no distractions. I don't know how many times I've heard people say, it's amazing the ideas that I get in the shower.
Yeah.
And it's just because there's no distractions. You're quiet with your own thoughts. And I think being intentional around that, like you have been in the morning, every day, or whenever that time is, imagine what can come from that just by pre-planning and committing to what you promised yourself you're going to do.
Exactly. And even when I was working in corporate America, right? Like I had a lot of things that I loved doing that I was not able to do between the hours of 9 and 6 or 8 and 6 when I was working for somebody else. But I would always think, if I'm willing to do that for somebody else, I can sure enough give myself 2 hours every day. It's 10 hours a week, 10 hours a week over the course of it's not a lot, but it adds up.
It
compounds over time. When you think about that over the course of a year and how proficient you can become in something, if that's where you're spending your energy. And that to me was really exciting. And then, projects that I was working on eventually were out earning my salary. And so it's like, oh, cool. I can do this. And that proof of concept, right?
Yeah.
And doing things I love, making money doing things I enjoy.
Betting on yourself.
Betting on myself, and, being able to say, okay, let's go.
Building something bigger with something bigger in mind, and giving yourself the permission and the freedom to do it.
Absolutely.
So one more quick, fun thing. What is one piece of advice you would have given yourself at the beginning of all of this? So financial advice is what I would love to hear. But just what do you think that girl at 18 or 20, you could have told her to save some of the heartache that she may have faced, or those nights waking up in the middle of the night?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've talked about a little bit of it today, of just have the right people around you guiding you. You don't have to experience this journey alone. That's why there's experts out there. And never feeling any shame or guilt or remorse around your financial situation, but more so seek education, seek knowledge, seek support, because you can get yourself back on the right track pretty quickly.
Raise your hand and ask the questions.
Exactly. Be educated when it comes to this. Do not be an ostrich and just stick your head in the sand. That's not what we want to go for. You're going to end up way deeper in the hole than what you realize. And it's really empowering when you do have that knowledge. So I would have told younger Allison, take that financial accounting class, get great tax strategists involved earlier on, go to courses and seminars, build a community, have conversations about money with other women, because
absolutely.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're doing this show and talking about wealth and money and finances, because again,
we don't talk about it.
We don't. And I grew up in a household where you don't talk about it. Especially women, that's not proper, right? That's not okay. That is not the world we live in anymore. And you have to be educated. You have to ask questions. You have to surround yourself with other people who are also going after their wealth goals too. And it is 1000% okay to do so. And that's, I think, what I would have loved to have heard back then.
I think that's great advice. And I think feeling comfortable talking about money is the best gift that we can give the people that are around us, maybe watching us, kids, friends, anything. Being in this world, I will often ask friends questions that have a financial answer. And when someone doesn't know us well, I can kind of see them go, oh, is that appropriate? Uh-huh. But it's just the world that we all live in, and we've all gotten comfortable with it in my small group. And hopefully there's a tidbit that somebody is going to pick up that's going to impact them, their kids, their legacy. And it just comes from having the conversations that are typically reserved for the guys on the golf course.
Exactly. And we need to be having them all the time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. For any of the listeners that want to find you, where can they find Allison Walsh?
Yes, I'm super active on Instagram. So it's at Allison Walsh. All of my programs and services are on AllisonWalshConsulting.com, or you can check out the She Believes She Could podcast. We also have a foundation that we just love giving back and helping empower women, equip them with the skills and tools that they need to live their most abundant lives. And check out my book, She Believes She Could.
Oh, I love that. I definitely will. Well, thank you so much for being here. And for all of you listening, as always, follow, like, share, subscribe. Let's have the conversations that we haven't been having. Bring a friend along, and we will see you next time.